Oh, hi there. If you're here, I guess you've clicked on this because you felt that sting before. The kind where someone you love, someone you built a life with, turns a room full of people against you with just a few words. A joke, they call it. But jokes have teeth sometimes, don't they? Sharp ones. Let me take you back to that night. The one that changed everything for me. It was at the Kensington and Associates Gala. You know. One of those glittering affairs in downtown Manhattan. All crystal chandeliers and waiters gliding around with trays of champagne flutes that cost more than my old rent. The air smelled like expensive perfume mixed with the faint tang of ambition, the kind that hangs heavy in marketing circles. We were celebrating a massive campaign win, some viral ad for a luxury watch brand that had everyone buzzing. And there I was, Emma Harlow, or M, as my husband liked to call me when he was feeling casual, sitting at the head table, smiling like it was all just another Tuesday, but it wasn't. Ryan, my husband of 2 years, was up on stage, microphone in hand, his tie loosened just enough to look effortlessly cool, that boyish grin plastered on his face. He was 35, still carrying that golden boy vibe from his Wharton days, the one that got him promoted faster than anyone else at the agency. His dad, Walter Kensington, the big-shot CEO, was beaming from the front row, clapping like Ryan had just invented sliced bread. The room was packed with clients in tailored suits, creative directors nursing their third martini, and a smattering of influencers snapping selfies for their feeds. It felt like the pinnacle of Ryan's world, our world, or so I thought. He leaned into the mic, voice smooth as silk, thanking his team, his dad for the legacy, and then he turned to me. "And let's not forget my rock at home, Em," he said, pausing for that dramatic beat, the one that always got a chuckle. The spotlight swung my way, hot and unflinching, and I felt every eye land on me like weights. Her biggest achievement? Keeping the apartment spotless, and remembering my dry cleaning schedule. I mean, that's hustle in its own right, right? Not everyone can nail the basics like she does. The room erupted. Laughter rippled out from our table first. Walter slapped his knee, his deep guffaw cutting through the applause like thunder. The creative director next to him, a guy named Marco, nearly choked on his drink, wiping tears from his eyes. Even the clients at the far end, those polished execs from the watch company, leaned in with polite smirks, whispering to each other. "Classic Ryan," someone murmured. "Keeps it light." I sat there, frozen in my navy silk dress, the one I'd picked because Ryan said it made me look supportive but not showy, my cheeks burning under the lights. I forced a smile, the kind that's all teeth and no heart, raising my glass like it was a toast to my own invisibility. Inside, though? God, it twisted like a knife. Not because it was new. Oh no, this was just the latest in a string of harmless jabs, but because it was so public. So final. Before we dive deeper, though, if you've ever been the punchline in someone else's success story, if you've smiled through the hurt just to keep the peace, hit that subscribe button. It's free, and it means we get to share more stories like this, ones where the underdog doesn't just survive but flips the script. Your stories matter too. Drop a comment if this hits close to home. Okay, deep breath. Let's go back a bit further, because that gala wasn't the start. It was the breaking point. The moment after 20 months of watching, waiting, and yes, planning. That laugh from the crowd. It echoed in my ears long after the applause died down, but I kept my expression neutral. Cool. Collected. Because they didn't know, Ryan didn't know, that the joke was on him. You see, right then, as the band struck up some jazzy number and waiters swirled with dessert trays, I slipped my hand into my clutch, felt the crisp edge of the envelope inside, sealed with that innocuous wax stamp from Nora's firm. My heart didn't race. It steadied. "You're right, honey," I said softly when Ryan sat back down, his hand landing on my knee like he'd just nailed the performance of the night. "Jokes keep things fun. But wait till you hear mine." His eyes flickered, just a second of confusion under the charm, but the table was already buzzing with toasts. No one noticed the shift. "Not yet. That envelope? It held everything. Proof that I, Emma Harlow, owned 60% of Kensington and Associates. The agency Ryan slaved over. The one Walter had built from a scrappy start-up into a midtown powerhouse. The one I'd quietly saved from the brink 20 months ago, when no one else would touch it. And in that moment, with the clink of glasses and the hum of conversation washing over us, I knew. This was it. The gala lights seemed brighter, the laughter sharper. But my mind? It was already 3 steps ahead. That was the spark, the one that lit the fuse I'd been holding for so long. But to understand why I didn't snap right there, why I waited for the perfect storm, you have to go back to the beginning. The wedding, the whispers, the slow fade of who I used to be because, honestly, looking back it feels like a lifetime ago, doesn't it? That version of me, the one who walked into a room and owned it without trying. I was 32 then, fresh off selling my little digital marketing startup for $8 million. Yeah, you heard that right. Harlow Creative, that's what I'd called it. A scrappy outfit I'd co-founded in my Brooklyn apartment with this brilliant coder named Jax. We specialised in guerrilla campaigns, the kind that hijacked social feeds without a dime on ads. Remember that viral stunt for the eco-friendly sneaker brand? The one where we turned abandoned billboards into pop-up art installations. That was us. I was the ideas girl, always sketching concepts on napkins during late-night brainstorms, turning what if into multi-million-dollar pitches. Jax handled the tech wizardry, but me? I was the voice, the hustle that got clients calling back. By 30, we'd built something real, something that mattered. And when a bigger fish, some VC-backed beast out of San Francisco, came knocking with an offer we couldn't refuse, I walked away with enough to never worry about rent again. Freedom, or so I thought. But then came Ryan. We met at a networking mixer in Soho, one of those events where everyone's got a business card sharper than their wit. He was 35 already, all polished edges and easy confidence, the golden son of Walter Kensington, who'd turned Kensington and Associates into the go-to agency for blue-chip brands. Ryan worked there too, of course, account director, climbing the ladder like it was greased with family silver. He spotted me across the room, laughing with a group of indie filmmakers about a pitch gone wrong, and sauntered over with that grin. "Your trouble," he said, clinking his glass against mine. "The good kind." We talked for hours, about viral trends, bad client calls, the grind of it all. He made me feel seen, you know. Like someone finally got the fire in me without trying to douse it. By the end of the night, he'd asked for my number, and I gave it without a second thought. Fast forward 6 months, and there we were, rings on our fingers, vows exchanged under a canopy of string lights at this sprawling estate upstate. Walter had pulled out all the stops, 300 guests, most of them his Rolodex of power players, photographers from the society pages snapping away like it was a Met Gala rehearsal. The whole thing cost a small fortune, the kind that screams legacy more than love. Ryan looked at me during the ceremony like I was his prize, whispering, "This is it, Em, us against the world." I believed him. God, I did. But even then cracks were showing. When I'd mentioned the sale of my agency over dinner one night, casual as anything, his eyes lit up for a beat, then dimmed. "That's awesome, babe. Cute little side gig paying off. Hey, speaking of gigs, Dad's got this huge Nike pitch coming up." And just like that, the subject shifted. My 8 figures, reduced to cute, my late nights building something from nothing. A footnote to his quarterly quotas. In those early days of marriage, I told myself it was just adjusting. You know how it is. The honeymoon haze wears off, and suddenly you're navigating whose turn it is to load the dishwasher. But it wasn't dishes. It was everything. Ryan would come home from the agency, tie askew, bursting with stories about closing deals, schmoozing clients at steakhouses that charged $200 for a ribeye. I'd listen, nod, ask the right questions, because that's what partners do, right? But he'd never flip it. Never once. "How was your day, Em? What are you working on next?" Instead, at company events, He'd introduced me as my wife, M. She's the one who keeps me sane. No mention of my background, my campaigns that had trended worldwide. Colleagues would smile politely, ask about the apartment we'd just bought in Tribeca or, God help me, when we were starting a family. As if that's all I was now, the supportive spouse, the pretty accessory on his arm. I started shrinking, you see. Not on purpose at first. It was survival. At the annual holiday party, when a junior copywriter gushed about my old sneaker campaign. Wait, that was you? Iconic! Ryan laughed it off. Yeah, Em had her fun back in the day. Now she's all about the home front. The room chuckled and I joined in because what else? Arguing would have made me the oversensitive wife, the one who couldn't take a joke. So I learned to fade, to nod at Walter's monologues about the good old days of Mad Men pitches, even though I'd spotted the cracks in his empire months ago, the over-reliance on big-box clients, the creative burnout everyone whispered about in the break room. I'd stand there in my appropriate cocktail dress, holding Ryan's coat while he networked like a shark. And in those quiet moments, alone in the ladies' room reapplying lipstick, I'd stare at my reflection and wonder, when did I become the ghost in my own story? But here's the thing, that fading, it wasn't all loss. It was camouflage. Over those first 20 months, I watched. Really watched. Kensington and Associates wasn't just Ryan's playground. It was a house of cards, propped up by Walter's bluster and a Rolodex that was starting to yellow. I'd tag along to support events, lingering in corners, eavesdropping on hallway chats. I learned who the real rainmakers were, the mid-level strategists grinding late, the junior designers with killer concepts getting shelved for safer ideas. And I mapped the rot. Walter's favouritism toward his son's buddies, the way promotions flowed to golf course connections rather than killer portfolios. Ryan. He thrived in it, coasting on charm and daddy's shadow, landing accounts because clients loved the family vibe. Me? I was invisible. Perfect. No one suspected the notebook app on my phone, filled with notes on cash flow whispers, client retention dips, the whole fragile web. It started small. A text from Nora Patel, my old college roommate, and now a shark of a corporate lawyer down in the village. We'd grab coffee every few weeks, away from Ryan's radar, and I'd vent. He's not a bad guy, Nora, just blind. She'd sip her latte, eyes sharp behind her glasses. Blind men still step on toes, Em. What's your play? At first I had none, but then, one rainy Tuesday evening, about 6 months in, everything shifted. Ryan was out schmoozing a potential client, some tech startup with deep pockets, and I was home, scrolling through industry news on my laptop. That's when I saw it. A quiet blip in the trades about Kensington's stock dip. Nothing alarming, but enough to ping my old instincts. I dug deeper, public filings, whispers on LinkedIn groups, and pieced it together. Walter had been gambling big on trends he didn't understand. Not stocks, but innovative agency bets. Dumping cash into AI-generated ad tools that spat out generic slop, partnering with influencers whose followings were as fake as their filters. I didn't say a word to Ryan. Why would I? He'd wave it off as Dad's got it handled. Instead, I filed it away like a puzzle piece waiting for its match. And then, 3 months later, the match came knocking. It was late, the kind of November night where the city feels like it's holding its breath. Ryan was at another networking dinner, so I was alone in our Tribeca loft, curled up with a glass of red and a book I wasn't really reading. My phone buzzed, an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick up. Em? It's Walter. His voice was gravelly, stripped of its usual boom. No preamble, no small talk. Can you come to the office? Tao, it's urgent. I paused, wineglass halfway to my lips. Walter Kensington, the man who'd treated me like a polite afterthought at family dinners, calling me. At 10 p.m? Sure, I said, keeping it light. Everything okay? A beat of silence then. Just come. I grabbed my coat, hailed a cab through the drizzle-slick streets, my mind racing. The office tower loomed dark against the skyline, only a few lights flickering on the exec floors. Security buzzed me up, unusual, that nod of recognition, and there was Walter waiting in the lobby like a ghost. His suit hung loose, tie yanked off, face pale under the fluorescence. We rode the elevator in silence, the hum the only sound between us. His office was a cave, mahogany desk piled with reports, walls lined with framed campaigns from the 90s, a bottle of scotch half empty on the sideboard. He poured me a glass without asking, hands unsteady. "Sit," he said, collapsing into his leather chair, and that's when it poured out, not in the polished CEO spin he usually served, but raw, ragged truth. The agency was bleeding. 12 million down the drain on next-gen fads, AI scripts that bombed focus groups, NFT-branded loyalty programs for brands that didn't even know what blockchain was, TikTok tie-ins with creators who'd ghosted mid-campaign. "It's temporary," he muttered, but his eyes said different. Creditors circling, clients jumping ship to sleeker shops, the board whispering about a sale. "I need capital, Em. Quiet capital. Family. Someone who won't blab to the trades." He leaned forward, desperation cracking his voice. "You, me, the home front girl. The one whose cute sale had padded our joint account just enough to buy that loft." I sipped the scotch, peaty burning, and let the silence stretch. For the first time in months I felt solid, seen in the worst way. Walter Kensington, king of the agency world, begging me for a lifeline. The irony? It almost made me smile. But I didn't, not yet. "Tell me everything," I said finally, setting the glass down. And as he spilled, numbers, timelines, the whole crumbling mess, I thought of Nora's words over coffee. "What's your play?" This, I realised, staring at the man who'd never once asked about my campaigns or my fire. This was it. Walter's confession that night wasn't just a plea. It was the key I'd been waiting for, the one that unlocked doors I hadn't even known were locked. But turning it? That took more than mercy. It took strategy, and a little bit of that old M. Harlow fire, the kind that had been smouldering under all that polite silence, waiting for air. I didn't rush my answer that night in Walter's office. No, I let him sweat it out, watching the scotch swirl in his glass as he waited for me to play the grateful daughter-in-law. "How much?" I asked finally, voice steady as the rain pattering against the floor-to-ceiling windows. He rattled off the figure, 12 million to plug the holes, stabilise the cash flow, keep the wolves from the door. But I wasn't just hearing numbers. I was seeing the whole rotten structure. Those innovative bets he'd made? They weren't risks. They were roulette spins from a man who'd built his career on gut feels, not data. AI ad generators that churned out cookie-cutter copy no one wanted. NFT drops for fashion brands that crashed harder than a bad stock tip. And the TikTok fiascos. Oh, those were the gems. Paying micro-influencers to push authentic hauls for products that arrived DOA, all while the algorithm buried the posts under a sea of cat videos and conspiracy threads. 12 million gone. Poof, like smoke from one of Walter's Cuban cigars. He leaned back, rubbing his temples, the great Walter Kensington looking every one of his 59 years. "Your family now, Em. This stays between us. No board freakouts, no headlines, just help. Family." The word hung there, heavy with all it wasn't. No late-night chats about my old campaigns, no invitations to strategy sessions where I could have spotted these disasters a mile off. Just this, a desperate man, clutching at the one loose thread he thought he could pull. I nodded slowly, letting the quiet build until it pressed on him like the storm outside. "I'll think about it," I said, standing to leave. "But if I do this, it's on my terms. Full transparency. My people review everything." His relief was almost comical, a sagging of shoulders, a mumbled "thank God" under his breath. He walked me to the elevator, clapping my arm like we'd just closed a deal over golf. "Smart girl," he muttered. "Smart, not visionary. Not the woman who'd once turned a shoestring budget into a cultural moment. Just useful. The cab ride home blurred by, city lights streaking like tears I wouldn't let fall. By the time I unlocked the loft door, it was past midnight, Ryan still out chasing whatever lead had him buzzing. I poured myself a nightcap, herbal tea this time, something to ground me, and texted Nora, "Emergency coffee tomorrow. Bring your shark teeth." She replied in seconds. 11 a.m, usual spot, spill. Nora Patel, 33, fierce as a monsoon, with that no-nonsense bob and eyes that could dissect a contract faster than a surgeon. We'd bonded in college over bad dates and big dreams, her law degree from Columbia sealing her as my go-to for anything sharper than a post-it note. By 11 the next morning, we were tucked in a corner booth at our favourite village cafe, steam rising from our mugs like secrets begging to escape. I laid it all out. Walter's call, the 12 mil hole, the agency teetering like a drunk on a ledge. Her fork paused mid-air over her eggs Benedict, brow furrowing. "And Ryan doesn't know?" "Not a clue. Thinks Dad's untouchable." She set her fork down, leaning in, voice dropping to that lawyer whisper that always made me feel armoured. "Okay, Em, question 1. Do you want to be the quiet saviour, wiring cash and fading back into the woodwork? Or do you want control?" Control. The word landed like a spark on dry tinder. I'd been so busy shrinking, surviving the slow erasure of M. Harlow the hustler, that I hadn't let myself dream bigger. But there, with the cafe hum around us and Nora's steady gaze holding mine, it clicked. Not just money, power. The kind that let me rewrite the rules, not just patch the leaks. "Control," I said, the word tasting like the first real breath in months. She grinned, fierce and proud. "Then let's build you a fortress." What followed was 3 weeks of Nora's magic, the kind that belongs in a boardroom thriller, not some Tribeca loft. She spun up a web so elegant it could have been art. Shell companies nested in trusts, anonymous funds funneled through offshore entities that looked like standard VC plays. On paper, I was a ghost, no name, no trace. In reality, 60% ownership, voting rights on every major move, board sway that could topple kings. Walter signed it all in a haze of gratitude, his own lawyers too buried in damage control to scrub every clause. "You're a lifesaver, Em," he said over a hushed lunch at his club, clasping my hand like a lifeline. "Family sticks together." I smiled, sweet as pie. "Always." He never asked what I got out of it, why a quiet investor needed veto power on exec hires. Assumed it was loyalty or maybe pity. Ryan. We kept him in the dark, Walter's call framed as protecting the boy from stress. Truth? Shame. Walter couldn't stomach his son knowing how close he'd come to torching the family name, so I played my part. Deeper into the shadows, if that's possible. Ryan came home one night, eyes shining, waving a promotion letter. VP of Accounts, his biggest leap yet. Dad says it's the turnaround magic. Clients are flooding back. I hugged him, murmured congratulations, poured wine. Inside, a quiet ache. That turnaround was my wire transfer, my structure holding the walls up while he climbed the stairs I'd rebuilt. But the jabs kept coming, subtle as salt in a wound. At a client dinner, he'd nudge me under the table when talk turned to strategy. Em's great with the home team stuff, but leave the pitches to the pros. Laughter, always laughter. All that time in the kitchen, me scrolling emails on my phone, old contacts from my agency days, testing waters for freelance, and him glancing over. "Babe, you should learn from how I pitch. Real ideas stick." I swallowed it every time, filed it away. Because Nora was right. Don't let them define your value. Our coffees turned into war councils, her updating me on filings, me sharing agency gossip from the periphery. "You're not hiding, Em," she'd say, squeezing my hand across the table. "You're hunting." And slowly that network grew. Whispers from a junior strategist I'd mentored once, Tips from a designer who'd seen my old work. Even Alex Rivera, the sharp-eyed creative lead who'd been iced out by Walter's old guard. They slid me intel via encrypted apps. Little breadcrumbs of loyalty from folks who'd spotted the real me peeking through the cracks, but the real gut punch. It came quiet about 4 months in. I was deep in quarterly reports, the ones Walter funneled my way under the guise of keeping you in the loop family style, when a line jumped out. A leaked concept for a beverage brand pitch. Sounded familiar, too familiar. My old sneaker campaign, twisted just enough to pass as inspired. I cross-checked with Nora, a quick subpoena light on client comms, and there it was. Ryan's emails to a rival shop, floating adaptations of my archived ideas. Not outright theft, but close enough to sting. He'd borrowed from the wife who didn't hustle anymore, shopping scraps to pad his side gigs. I sat there in the dim loft light, phone glowing like an accusation, and felt something harden. Not rage, resolve. This wasn't just dismissal anymore. It was erasure, active and careless. And it sealed it, the gala coming up. Ryan's big victory bash for that watch campaign. That was my window. The one where his shine would be brightest, the fall hardest. Nora prepped the envelope that week. Thick cream stock, sealed like a promise. Once you hand it over, no takebacks, she warned over our last coffee. I nodded, tucking it into my clutch for the dry run. It's time they saw me. All of me. And as the gala loomed, Ryan rehearsing his speech in our bathroom mirror like a method actor, all calculated pauses and humble brags, I knew deep in my bones. This wasn't revenge. It was revelation, the kind that would echo long after the laughs faded, and oh, how it did. The gala night arrived like a storm I'd summoned myself, crisp, October air nipping at the edges of my wrap as Ryan and I stepped out of the car onto the red carpet, rolled out for Kensington and Associates' finest hour. The venue was a converted warehouse in the meatpacking district, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs strung like stars, pulsing with the low thrum of a live band playing something smooth and forgettable. Guests milled about in clusters, air-kissing cheeks and clinking glasses, the scent of truffle canapes mingling with that sharp edge of cologne and desperation. Ryan was in his element, arm looped through mine like a trophy on display, whispering last-minute tweaks to his speech. "Gonna kill it tonight, Em. This watch campaign? It's my ticket to the big leagues." I nodded, murmuring encouragement, my free hand brushing the clutch at my side. The envelope inside felt heavier than paper should, weighted with ink and intent. Nora's signature a quiet thunder at the bottom. We wove through the crowd, Ryan pausing for handshakes and backslaps, me smiling at the periphery like always. Meet the team from Rolex, they're loving the pitch." The execs nodded politely, eyes sliding past me to Ryan's easy charm. Walter held court near the bar, his laugh booming over the din, surrounded by the old guard, account guys in cufflinks, creatives nursing whiskies. He caught my eye, raised his glass in a silent toast, oblivious to the storm cloud I carried. Alex Rivera was there too, tucked in a corner with a cluster of younger talent, their conversation hushed and electric. Our eyes met for a beat, a flicker of solidarity, that secret thread we'd woven through late-night emails. "You got this," their nod said. I believed it. Dinner unfolded in a haze of small plates and smaller talk, seared scallops that tasted like ash in my mouth, wine poured freely to loosen tongues and egos. Ryan dominated our table, regaling the group with war stories from the campaign shoot, the director's diva fits, the last-minute rewrite that saved the day. Laughter flowed as easy as the Merlot, and I played my role, the attentive wife, chiming in with a soft "sounds intense" or a compliment on someone's earrings. But inside, a countdown, every chuckle at Ryan's anecdotes, every glance my way that lingered a second too short, ticked the clock forward. And then, the MC took the stage, a slick radio host type with a headset mic, announcing the keynote. "Ladies and gentlemen, the man who made this magic happen. Ryan Kensington! Applause thundered as Ryan bounded up, all 6'2" of him radiating that polished glow. The spotlight caught him just right, turning his grin into gold. He started strong, thanks to the team, a nod to Walter's visionary legacy, a humble brag about the campaign's metrics that had the room nodding along. "We didn't just sell watches tonight," he said, voice dropping conspiratorial. "We sold a story, a lifestyle." More claps, glasses raised, and then the pivot. He scanned the crowd, landing on me with that affectionate wink, the one that always signalled the light moment. And I couldn't have done it without my better half, Em. She's the unsung hero back home, keeping the chaos at bay so I can chase the winds. Her superpower? Managing my life like a pro. I mean, let's be real, her biggest pitch, nailing the laundry cycle without a single wrinkle. That's executive-level execution right there. The table exploded first, Walter's bark of laughter cutting sharp, the account VP beside him slapping the linen like it had offended him. Ripples spread, the creative team hooting, clients chuckling into their napkins, even the band seeming to lean in. "Ryan, you dog!" someone yelled from the back. He basked in it, shoulders shaking, that boyish shrug saying just keeping it real. The spotlight swung my way again, hot and mocking, pinning me under the weight of their mirth. I felt it all, the burn in my cheeks, the twist in my gut, the old ghost of that shrinking girl whispering laugh it off. But not this time. This time something else rose, the fire banked low for 20 months, flaring hot and sure. I stood slow and deliberate, smoothing my dress like I was about to accept an award. The room hushed a fraction, curiosity flickering in the laughter's wake. Ryan's grin faltered, just a hair. "What's this?" But he covered with a playful, "Or Em's got something to add?" I smiled. Not the tight one from before, but something softer, warmer, the kind that hides teeth. "You're spot on, love," I said, voice carrying clear over the hush, pitched just right for the mics to catch. "Jokes do keep it fun. And since we're sharing wins..." I reached into my clutch, the motion simple, unhurried, like pulling a card from a deck. The envelope slid free, crisp and unyielding under the lights, and I held it up for a beat, letting the room lean in, that collective breath held. Whispers started. "What's that, a gift?" Ryan's eyes narrowed, playful confusion masking the edge. "Em, what's..." I stepped closer to the stage steps, the band fading to a murmur behind me. "Open it," I said, simple as that, handing it off to a waiter who scurried it up like contraband. The world slowed then. Or maybe it was just me, time stretching like taffy, every second a frame in some slow-burn indie flick. Ryan took the envelope, fingers drumming the edge, that grin hanging by a thread. He slit it with a table knife, casual still, pulling the sheaf of papers free. I watched his eyes scan the header, Nora's firm letterhead, bold and official, then drop to the body. Ownership charts, shareholder agreements, my name woven through it all like a vein of gold. 60%, controlling interest. The room's murmur built as colour drained from his face, that golden boy tan going ashen under the spots. His mouth opened, closed, a fish on dry land. What the hell is this?" I climbed the steps now, heels steady on the wood, taking the mic from the MC's limp hand. The crowd was statue still, forks suspended, glasses forgotten. Walter half risen from his seat, face twisting from confusion to dawning horror. "This," I said, voice warm but edged like good bourbon, "is the real story behind tonight's win. I own 60% of Kensington and Associates. Which means, Ryan, I own this agency. Your agency. Your dad's legacy, and effective immediately. You're fired." The silence crashed down like a wave, physical, thick, the kind that presses on your chest. Ryan's papers slipped from numb fingers, fluttering to the stage like confetti from a bad party. His eyes locked on mine, wide and uncomprehending, that charm shattered into shards. "Fired? What? This is a joke, right?" "Your joke," Laughter tried to bubble from the tables but died wet and wrong. Walter lunged forward, snatching the documents, his face mottling red as he flipped pages. Nora's clauses glowing like neon accusations. This can't... we had a deal. You were passive, investor, not this. His voice cracked, the great man reduced to a sputter. I turned to him, calm as the eye in the storm. Passive on day-to-day, Walter. Never on decisions. You signed it, desperate, remember. No deep dive with your lawyers because the checks were bouncing and clients were bolting. Murmurs swelled now. Did she just... Phone slipping out, cameras discreetly angling, and then the twist, the one I'd held like an ace. Oh, and Ryan. That inspired beverage pitch you leaked to the rivals last quarter. The one that smelled an awful lot like my old eco-sneaker gorilla drop. Yeah, that's getting its own review Monday. With legal. His head snapped up, betrayal flashing raw. How did you... I pay attention, I said softly. Always have. The room fractured then. Gasps, whispers exploding into chatter, chairs scraping as people stood, buzzing like a hive kicked. Alex was already at the stage edge, eyes shining with something like vindication. A client exec crossed his arms, muttering, "Holy shit," to his neighbour. Ryan staggered back a step, mic cord tangling at his feet, voice breaking through. Please, this is insane." Over a joke? Our marriage. Walter was shouting now, waving the papers like a flag of surrender. Board meeting! Emergency, we contest this! But the energy had shifted, the room tilting toward me, curiosity hardening into awe. I handed the mic back, stepped down into the cool flood of air and walked, not ran, toward the exit. Waiters parted like the sea, one slipping me my wrap with a nod that felt like respect. Outside, the night air hit like grace, cool and cleansing against my skin. My phone was already vibrating in my clutch. Ryan, Walter, unknowns piling up. I let them hum, sliding into the waiting car Nora had insisted on. As the gala's glow faded in the rear view, I exhaled. Not relief, exactly. Liberation. The kind that comes when you've carried a weight so long, setting it down feels like flying. The drive home was a blur of city lights and what-ifs I didn't indulge, because this wasn't impulse. It was the end of a long game, and the board was just resetting. But the fallout? That started the second I crossed the threshold, because the threshold wasn't just a door that night. It was a line in the sand, the one I'd towed for months, and crossing it meant no looking back. The loft felt different as I stepped inside, the familiar creak of the floorboards under my heels echoing louder in the sudden quiet. No Ryan bursting in late with stories and scotch on his breath. No Walter's voicemails waiting like landmines. Just me, the hum of the fridge and my phone lighting up like a fireworks finale gone wrong. I kicked off my shoes by the entry table, black stilettos that suddenly felt like armour shed, and let it vibrate on the marble countertop while I poured a glass of water from the Brita. Cold, plain, grounding. The first voicemail played on speaker, tinny and urgent, Ryan's voice, laced with that post-gala slur. What the fuck was that? Fired, in front of everyone. Call me back, now. This isn't funny. Dad's calling the lawyers, we're fixing this. You're my wife, for God's sake. Click. Deleted. The next was Walter, gravelly and seething. Emma, you get back here. This is betrayal, pure and simple. We had an understanding. 60%. That's not family. That's a goddamn coup. Board meets at dawn. You think you can waltz in and torch my son's career? Over what, a toast? Call me or God help you. His breath hitched at the end like a man staring down a cliff. Deleted. Then the unknowns piled in. A junior account rep from the agency. Voice shaky. Is it true? Saw the posts? You're a legend. Followed by a client exec's polished tone. Ms. Harlow, we'd love to discuss opportunities. That was bold. By the time I scrolled to the end, 17 missed calls, text lighting up from Nora. Nailed it. Statement prepped for AM. And even Alex, the room's on fire. In a good way. Drink soon? I silenced it all, sinking onto the couch with my water, the city skyline twinkling beyond the windows like it was in on the joke. Sleep didn't come easy that night, not from nerves, but from the hum of possibility buzzing under my skin. By morning, the story had legs. LinkedIn exploding with wife's gala bombshell. Secret majority owner ousts exec. Husband. Picked up by adage with a sidebar on the agency's miracle turnaround. Comments were a war zone, half calling me a boss babe icon. The other half decrying corporate pettiness over a roast, Nora called at 7:30 sharp. Her voice all business over the clatter of her morning espresso. Boards convened early, virtual per your structure. They're rubber stamping the termination. No one suicidal enough to cross 60%. Alex is primed for interim CEO. She'll hit the ground running on the restructure. I sipped my coffee. Black, strong, feeling the weight lift a little more. And the leak? Papers filed. Ryan's side hustle just became a headline. He'll settle quiet to avoid the stink. Monday dawned grey and relentless, the kind of November sky that mirrors the grind. I didn't go into the office, no need. Nora's feed from the boardroom showed it all. Stunned faces around the virtual table, Walter muted and fuming in his square, Alex stepping up with that quiet command, outlining the purge. No more golf buddy hires, no legacy promotions for the boss's kin. Creative teams empowered, metrics over schmoozes, a real diversity push that Walter's Old Boys Club had lip-serviced for years. By noon, 3 VPs were transitioning out with golden parachutes, their desks cleared by security before lunch. The agency didn't crumble. It breathed. Clients texted reassurances. Stability's key. Glad to see fresh eyes. And the stock whispers turned to murmurs of buy-in. But the personal. That unravelled slower, like a thread pulled one knot at a time. Ryan showed up Tuesday evening unannounced, the doorman buzzing him up despite my no visitors note. I heard the key in the lock, our keys still shared in that limbo, and there he was, tie gone, shirt untucked, eyes red-rimmed like he'd aged a decade overnight. He started, voice cracking on the threshold, hands up like a white flag. Can we talk? Please. I nodded, gesturing to the kitchen island, keeping the counter between us like a moat. He collapsed onto a stool, running hands through his hair. I get it. The joke's the way I ghosted what you built. I thought it was harmless, you know? Keeping things light. But seeing you up there owning it all, God, Em, you were electric. I never saw you coming. His words hung raw and unpolished, the charm stripped away. I leaned on the counter, arms crossed not in anger but to hold steady. You didn't look, Ryan, not really. 20 months of me fading, and you filled the space with your story. Mine? It was always there, the campaigns, the networks, the fire. You just preferred the version that fit your spotlight. He nodded, slow, tears tracking silent. The leak. That was stupid. Desperate, trying to prove I was more than Dad's shadow. But it was your spark, wasn't it? I stole from you. A beat, then softer. I'm sorry. For all of it. It wasn't fireworks forgiveness, no Hollywood hug, but a quiet unburdening. We talked till the city lights flickered on. Practical things. The prenup holding firm, assets splitting clean, him job hunting at a boutique shop uptown. I want you to fly, Em, he said at the door, voice thick, even if it means watching from the ground. And as he left, the loft felt mine. Not empty, but open. The restructure bloomed from there, Alex at the helm like she'd been forged for it. Nora and I met her for lunches, real ones at that hidden bistro in Chelsea with the killer falafel, brainstorming over sketches and stats. No more token diversity, Alex said one afternoon, napkin scribbled org chart between us. Women leading pitches, juniors with skin in the game. And Em, your old gorilla tricks? We're dusting them off for the next big push. It wasn't just business. It was balm. Me, sketching again, Nora vetting contracts, Alex executing with that unflinching grace. Work life? I carved it new, mornings for yoga on the balcony, evenings chasing whims like a pop-up workshop on sustainable ads. The ghost was gone. In her place, a woman choosing her light. 3 months slipped by in that rhythm, the agency's numbers climbing, 20% up on new retains, buzz building for Alex's first major campaign drop. The headlines faded to footnotes, but the whispers? They lingered, turning heads at coffee runs. And then, one drizzly Thursday in February, the buzzer sounded, insistent like unfinished business. I peered at the screen. Walter, coat damp, face etched deeper than I remembered. No entourage, no bluster. Just him, hat in hand. He said through the intercom, voice stripped bare. 5 minutes, please. I buzzed him up, not out of pity but curiosity, because some endings demand a proper close, and Walter Kensington. He was just getting started on rewriting his story, the one he'd clung to like a script he couldn't rewrite. I smoothed my sweater, soft cashmere, a post-gala indulgence, and opened the door, letting the hallway's chill seep in before his frame filled it. Walter Kensington stood there, not the towering exec from boardrooms past, but a man diminished, coat rumpled from the rain, hair slicked uneven, eyes shadowed like he'd traded sleep for strategy sessions. No briefcase, no entourage, just him, hands jammed in pockets, that old-school overcoat hanging loose. He said again, softer this time, the intercom gravel giving way to something almost human. I won't take much of your time. I stepped aside, gesturing to the living room, the one with the view that used to feel like a cage but now stretched open like possibility. He shrugged off his coat, draping it over the armchair like a truce flag, and sank onto the couch with a sigh that carried years. We sat in that careful quiet for a moment, the patter of rain on the windows the only underscore. I didn't offer coffee, no need to play hostess. This wasn't family dinner. What brings you here, Walter? I asked, voice even, curling up in the opposite chair with my legs tucked under. He pulled a folded document from his inside pocket, thick, lawyer-stamped, the kind Nora would shred for sport, and smoothed it on the coffee table between us. A proposal, he said, sliding it my way. Buyback. 25% of your stake, at a premium that'll set you up for life. You'd walk with millions, clean. I'd reclaim majority with my shares, steer us back to stability, family stability. His eyes searched mine, pleading under the bluster. You've made your point, Em, loud and clear. The board sees it, the trades see it. But this? He tapped the paper. This is business, rational, no more theatrics. I picked it up, flipping through without really reading, clauses blurring into the familiar dance of numbers and legalese. Millions, security, the easy out. But as I set it down, something in me, that old fire, tempered now, warmed to a steady glow. Rational, I echoed, leaning back, like investing 12 million in ghost influencers and AI that couldn't sell sand in the desert. Or like signing my structure without a second glance because desperation blinds you. His jaw tightened, but he didn't snap. Progress, maybe. I underestimated you, he admitted, voice low like pulling teeth. From the wedding on. Thought you were the steady type, good for Ryan, good for the image. Never pegged you for this. The wire, the webs, the gala gut punch. Ryan warned me, you know, back when I floated the investment. She's sharper than she lets on, Dad. Don't hand her the keys. A bitter chuckle escaped him. Kid was right for once. Right. Not out of awe, but fear. The man who'd built an empire on bluster couldn't fathom a woman, his daughter-in-law, outmanoeuvring him at his own game. I let that sit, the rain a soft rhythm against the glass. This isn't about points or punches, Walter. It's about building something that lasts. Your way? Nepotism and nods over notebooks. It nearly sank us. Mine? Competence. Fresh eyes like Alex's. Ideas from the edges, not just the centre. He shifted, discomfort etching deeper. And Ryan? You torched his career over. Feelings? Hurt pride from a toast? The old patronising tilt crept in, the one that saw women as tempests, not architects. Feelings? I said, not rising, but firm. This was planned before the gala, Walter. Alex and I sketched the CEO shift in January. Divorce papers drafted in October. The toast. It just lit the match I'd been holding. He stared, processing, or trying to, the impossibility of it. Me, plotting in plain sight while playing the part he wrote. No emotional outburst, no vindictive snap. Just quiet, calculated care. His shoulders sagged then, the fight leaching out like air from a tire. You're not the girl I married off to my son. No, I agreed, soft but sure. I'm the woman who saved your legacy when you couldn't, and now I'm the one steering it forward. He didn't argue, just nodded, weary, resigned, and stood, leaving the document behind like shed skin. At the door, he paused, hand on the knob. The agency's thriving. Alex, she's good. Better than me, maybe. A ghost of a smile. Take care, Em. And he was gone, elevator humming him away into the downpour. The door clicked shut, and I stood there a beat, letting the echo settle. 3 months post-gala, and the pieces had realigned. Divorce finalised quiet, Ryan landing steady at a competitor, adequate, authentic, no shadows to chase. The agency? Blossoming under Alex, profits spiking, creatives buzzing, my guerrilla ghosts revived in campaigns that trended real. Nora and I inked a new venture. A boutique arm for underserved voices, women-led, scrappy as my old days. Work-life wove seamless now, sunlit sketches at my drafting table, evenings wandering the High Line with podcasts on ethics in ads. No more shrinking, just choosing. When to step forward, when to watch from the wings. Invisibility. It used to be a cage, imposed by eyes that wouldn't see. Now it's a choice, a cloak for the hunt shed when the moment calls. That gala laugh. It echoes still, but not as hurt, as the setup, the quiet before the roar of a life reclaimed, and if you're listening, feeling that old fade in your own story. Remember, their underestimation isn't your limit, it's your launch pad. Build your network in the shadows, plan your wires tight, and when the spotlight swings, step in, own it. If this tale of hidden fire and fierce unmaking hit you square, that slow burn to the big reveal, the quiet after the storm, smash that like button right now. Tell me in the comments, what was your favourite twist, the envelope drop, the leak call-out, or Walter's white flag? Your shares keep these stories alive. Subscribe, ring the bell, and let's keep flipping scripts together. You've got a comeback in you. Go claim it!